The leadership may be backing him, but the rank and file seem to be going with the other guy.
That's exactly right, and this is why President Trump's numbers are surging in places like Michigan. I have the place they built, the Dodge Ram, directly across from my headquarters in Sterling Heights, Michigan. 10th Congressional District is the #1 manufacturing district in the entire nation, and 50% of our GDP in Michigan is based on the automotive industry. This will absolutely crater our automotive industry, and the people back home know it. Sean Fain even went on Fox last month and said he's endorsing President Biden, but he knows his rank and file probably aren't, because people know that President Trump is for the people. People trust President Trump on his energy policies. People trust President Trump on his immigration policies. People trust President Trump on the economy and global and stabilizing the world and bringing the peace that we saw in the Middle East and no war in Europe the way we had 4 years ago. So that's why Michigan right now, the elections today, Trump wins. And I'm excited to make sure that we reverse these policies by, again, pushing forward this CRA, pushing back on the Biden administration's harmful regulations that will crater the American automotive industry. We need to focus more on innovation, not regulation. This is a communist manifesto and nothing else.
Communist China. China, China, China. You know, that's Congressman John James of Michigan on Fox News last month telling everyone how much Trump is for the average guy. I mean, ignore the fact that Joe Biden has been out there fighting for these guys, that Joe Biden was the first president in history to join the picket line with striking auto workers last year, a strike that led to their best contract since 2008, specifically designed to get them, well, back into the middle class as many of them asked for. And what did Donald Trump do? Well, he held a fake union event at a non-union auto plant with paid actors and plants saying they were union. They weren't. Like I said, here's Joe.
I've watched a lot of UAW picket lines when I was a senator since 1973, but I tell you what, first time I've ever done it as a president. Oh, look, one thing is real simple, and to be very brief. The fact of the matter is that you guys, the UAW, you saved the automobile industry back in 2008 and before. Made a lot of sacrifices, gave up a lot, and the companies were in trouble. But now they're doing incredibly well. And guess what? You should be doing incredibly well too. The simple proposition. Stick with it, because you deserve the significant raise you need and other benefits.
Let's get it!
Let's get back what we lost, okay? Yeah. We say them, it's about time for them to step up for us. Thank you.
Actually out there with the people. The gaslighting is what you would expect from the MAGA Republicans now. James is desperate for the blessing of Daddy Trump, and he got it, even though just 2 years ago he was kind of criticizing Trump for January 6th. Well, as he prostrates himself to Trump, one Democrat has entered a crowded field to run for his seat against him this fall. Her family's been touched by tragedy, and it's driven her to run for Congress. You know, a friend introduced me to Emily Busch and her run for Michigan's 10th district, and I had to get her in the hot seat. I'm Fred Wellman. I'm host of On Democracy with FP Wellman, right here on the MeidasTouch Network, and you're watching In the Hot Seat with Emily Busch. Emily, so great to connect with you. Welcome to the MeidasTouch Network. I'm so happy to talk to you right in the middle of the campaign. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Fred. This is awesome.
So I always start out the same way. You know, you've got a full life. You've got kids. You know, you're in a pretty good place in your life right now. I think your husband's retired even. You know, why did you decide to jump into a crowded race against an incumbent darling of the MAGA movement?
Well, I'll just throw it back to November of 2021. My son, Andrew, was a freshman in high school at Oxford High School. And on November 30th, 2021, a 15-year-old came into the school with a loaded handgun and waited for the opportune time to, unfortunately, open fire in a crowded hallway in passing time. He murdered 4 kids. He shot 6 kids and shot a teacher. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. I got a text from a friend, and she said, "Have you talked to Andrew?" And that just started a whole cascade of events. Ended up texting my kid. He was out. He was running. I called him and I said, "Hey, yo, dude, what's happening?" I could tell he was outside. And he said, "Oh, we're running from the school." And he goes, I don't know what's going on. And I had known what was kind of going on from my friend. But I didn't mention it to him if he didn't know. And he said, "You know, I don't know, Mom, there are a lot of fire trucks. Maybe it's a fire." And asked him if I could come get him, and his teacher, I could hear in the background, said, she can come sit with you until we can account for everyone. And that's when I knew, like, account for everyone. And a 4-minute drive to the local grocery store turned into a 20-minute drive because I missed 4 cycles of the light from all of the emergency vehicles. And I later found out that my 14-year-old kid knew exactly what was happening, and he didn't tell me. And so I fully, wholeheartedly believe that it's not my 14-year-old's job to protect me. It's my job to protect him. And that was a day where I couldn't protect him. And so I thought, well, what can I do to do better so we don't have this continue to happen? And started meeting with families and parents. And very quickly after, I started doing this little thing called community organizing, which I didn't know was a thing. People very quickly started asking me if I would step up and run for something. So started as a school board run, turned into a state rep run, which we had redistricting in 2022. And I ran for a state rep seat that's a +30 Republican state rep seat. But I felt that it was necessary for me to do it so people who shared my values would have someone to vote for. And that was a monumental year in Michigan, as you probably know, in 2022. And I'm glad I did it. And wasn't sure if I wanted to do anything again. But a couple months after the general election, very quickly, people were asking if I would step up and run for something. And I considered it and was kind of kicking it around. And 3 weeks after it was posed to me, the Michigan State University shooting happened. And there were 50 Oxford kids locking down for the second time in 14 months. And that was the night that I decided to step off the sidelines and do something pretty big.
Well, the scourge of gun violence is it, right? And it has to be a framework, especially in your district, and knowing that history already. And it just, at some point, we've got to say no. I mean, what are the kind of reasonable, I mean, we know from polls that most Americans actually support reasonable gun violence prevention measures, you know? And what kind of things do you want to pursue? What do you hear from people like, hey, look, we know, it's not about taking assault guns necessarily, but there are things we agree on. What are the kind of things that you're hearing as you do your work?
Well, the good news is Michigan has a blueprint that we can follow. They passed 4 very meaningful, very common sense gun safety legislation laws after the Michigan State University shooting. A background check on every sale of every gun, secure storage, and red flag laws or extreme risk protection orders, right? Keep guns out of the hands of people that shouldn't have them. And then they also passed a domestic violence where if you have been convicted of some sort of domestic violence, then you cannot get a firearm for 8 years. So these are very, very common sense gun safety laws. And we, like you said, we know that Americans largely want these. And there are lots of other things that we can do, like closing the gun show loophole and repealing PLACA, which of course protects gun manufacturers from any sorts of lawsuits to be filed. So a lot of things can be done. And with President Biden and the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, we call that the floor and not the ceiling. There's still a lot to do. So those are the things that we can do, and they were passed here in Michigan. And we're in the process of implementing them. Of course, there's funding that needs to go along with education and implementation. But these are things that we know Americans want.
Right, and they accept, and we all understand, and it's good to see the Supreme Court actually at least back the idea of the domestic violence and the domestic, restraining orders. Yep. I opened the show on another topic, and obviously you're not just running, you don't run for Congress for one issue, right? You're running for Michigan, and Michigan, of course, is a union state. Unions are truly having a moment right now. I opened with a video of John James talking about how people understand that Trump's the man of the people, and his office is across from the plant. Polls just last year showed overwhelming support for union organizing, and successes like the UAW strike and the UPS strike have really only empowered the movement more. Actually, Sean Fain has endorsed President Biden, and so they're trying to steal this mantle, but it's fake. Your district's a key player in auto manufacturing. How important are unions there, and do they get that there's one party that seems to be supporting them, and how are you going to support them?
Well, I can tell you that right now I'm the only candidate in this race that is able to run because of a union negotiated pension. So my husband is retired union firefighter, Kansas City, Missouri, 25 years. And through him and through my master's degree at Michigan State University, I've learned the value of unions. And if it weren't for unions for my husband's situation, they wouldn't have safety equipment. They wouldn't have, commercial washing machines to wash their turnout gear after a fire. They wouldn't have all the benefits that they had. So, and clearly they wouldn't have the pension that is allowing me to run for Congress full time. So unions and labor and the trades are incredibly critical in Southeast Michigan. And we are working very hard to make sure that we build those relationships with labor and the trades, skilled trades. And it's truly, we are seeing a movement right now. I had the opportunity when they went on strike in downtown Detroit. I took my son with me. We had our red sweatshirts on, and my son marched with me, and we went to the rally. I have a favorite picture of me and my kids. Someone took a picture of the two of us as we're walking with all these people in red shirts, and he's holding up a sign, and he felt the energy. And I said, Andrew, you're witnessing history right now. This is a pretty amazing movement. So I do think we're in a time where corporations that are recording and reporting record profits are rolling back so many of the things that workers do need and do have the right to. So livable wage, benefits, making sure that they have safe working conditions. I think we are in a movement and we have to keep up the momentum. So it's incredibly important in Southeast Michigan.
I can imagine. Absolutely. I was always struck by an interview I saw at the beginning of the UAW strike, a woman in Michigan, probably in your district, and she told the interviewer that the reason they were striking is because they want to be part of the middle class again. They just, and what a shocking thing to hear, and it's a joy to see that they got what they were fighting for and they deserved it, and President Biden was on the line with them. But there's also, I know you're also out there in the region, and a lot of people have abortion on their mind and reproductive care these days. It's insane. It's only getting worse. The Supreme Court hasn't done us any favors there either, right? They've muddied the waters even more. You've been out campaigning. This is your second campaign in just a few years. What are you hearing? What's the energy you hear, and how is that really a big priority in your district as well as across the country?
Absolutely. I think polling is showing that it continues to be top of mind. And while Michigan, we did the darn thing in 2022, and Governor Whitmer signed it back into law after repealing an 1931, or is it 1831 abortion ban. So while we, again, know what to do here in Michigan, we also know that should something awful happen, they're saying what they're going to do out loud. They're going to go for a federal national abortion ban. So in that case, that trumps everything. So we need to, when I get to Washington, we need to codify Roe, make sure that women don't have to travel for an abortion. We need to make sure that in those 21 states, we will have a federally protected right to abortion. So it continues to be top of mind for everyone that I speak to. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I love hearing that in a blue state that's got the protections. Even we understand, or I'm in a red state myself, understand that doesn't mean it's perfectly safe. That the next battle is the national level, and it hasn't changed whatsoever, has it? Women especially, are still aware that they could lose that right with the snap of a Supreme Court decision.
Absolutely. And, there's a lot of talk now and reframing of the issue of it being medical care, right? We're seeing in these 21 states where we have these extreme bans where women are literally fighting for their lives and have come in on their deathbed in order to receive treatment is egregious. But there's also the very basic fact that it should be a woman's choice to decide when she is going to have a family and how she will have a family. So for so many people, I know that it can completely frame the trajectory of their life. And we need to make sure that all women, especially the generations coming up behind us, have a right to decide what is right for them.
Yeah, and they'll come for IVF and contraception next. So it's the healthcare is the future of our kids. Well, we've been talking for a while. The most important question I ask during every interview, Emily, is how can our incredible Meidas Minded viewers and others find you? Where can they support your campaign? Maybe put in $1 or $2.
I would love that. It's www.emilyformichigan, FOR and Michigan spelled out.com. Pretty darn easy. And please go to my website, click to volunteer, donate, learn information. We have everything up, and I would absolutely be honored to have your support.
Wonderful. And you got a late primary, like a lot of these states, like here in Missouri, wait in August. So you got to fight ahead of you still, and that matters, of course. But we appreciate what you're doing, and proud of you for stepping up, even knowing if it comes out of family tragedy. And just wish you the best of luck. And thanks for joining us here on the MeidasTouch.
Thank you for having me, Fred. This was great.
Talk to you soon. Man, another great candidate, right? I love these stories of people who've been motivated to run. So I always start with that same question. It seems like a silly question, but why are they running? I mean, I think it's important for us to know who are voting and supporting folks. Like, well, why'd you decide to do this? And it's always so gratifying when you hear a story that said, look, this thing happened, and it just pushed me to go. So it's wonderful. Another great candidate. Just keep your eye on Emily Busch there in Michigan. There'll be a lot more of these conversations. There's a lot of them so far. I've got incredible conversations coming out. I think 2 this week alone. Candidates have been calling me just to talk to you guys in the Meidas Mighty. So we really appreciate your support. We appreciate you sharing these videos and watching them. We'll be doing a lot more. As always, I am Fred Wellman, host of On Democracy with FB Wellman, right here on the MeidasTouch Network. We put new shows up every Friday night at 11 p.m. Eastern. You can find them there or anytime. Thanks for joining us. Remember, stay in the fight.